Well, if you're a guest with us today, we're so glad that you're here. But today is a little bit of a family Sunday, and so it's a little different, change of pace than what we normally do. Normally during this time, we'd be in the study of God's Word and going through a passage of Scripture together and studying that. But today, we have a special opportunity. And we have a group of young people, junior high and high school students. And for the past several months, they've been getting together and having training and studying God's Word together, doing devotions and memory verses and learning to share the gospel and becoming just excited about ministry that God would have for them. And this past week, we sent our students out to San Diego. And one of our missionaries is there. Her name is Jocelyn Watson. There she is. And Jocelyn is special to me because she was in my junior high ministry all the way up through high school ministry, and her dad Randy is here and a big part of our team. And so we're thrilled to be able to work with her and support her as a missionary. But our students went out this past week to do ministry alongside of her. She's in the City Heights neighborhood in San Diego, and their ministry there is called Kaleo. They do a lot of ministry with the homeless. They do a lot of ministry with refugees there. And just really a bright light in a dark place there. And so we want today to just emphasize and be able to highlight a little bit of what God has done this past week with our students. In fact, I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's something that the church practiced even in biblical times. As you know, in the book of Acts was really when the gospel was starting to go out, right? And the whole theme of our mission trip this year was taken out of Acts chapter 1 and verse 8. And Acts 1:8 says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and even to the uttermost parts of the earth." And that's what God's called us to do, to be a witness, to go out and share our lives and to live on mission. And so as a youth pastor for 10 years and now as a pastor, like my passion is encouraging people that church is way more than just coming on Sundays and sitting in a pew and singing some nice songs, but it's getting out and it's letting your light shine and it's getting out into the dark world that we live in and telling others about Christ, living on mission. And so our kids had a wonderful opportunity to do that. And throughout the book of Acts, the church was sending out missionaries, right? And Paul went on missionary journeys, and he took Barnabas with him. And there's one text, I'll just read for you one verse real briefly here, but it's in Acts chapter 14. And Paul and Barnabas, they've been all over the place on this missionary journey, and finally they come back home. And in Acts chapter 14, verse 27, it says, "And when they arrived and gathered the church together, they declared all that God had done with them and how he had opened a door of faith to the Gentiles." And so when Paul and Barnabas got back from their missionary journey, they said, "Church, let's get together and let's celebrate everything that God has done through the ministry that he's allowed us to have." And so this is an exciting thing, a biblical thing, and it's something that we want to share with you today, some of what our students have been doing this past week. So we've got just a brief video to give you a little overview of what the students did. And then Daniil, our youth director, is going to come out and introduce a little bit and have the students share with you what God's done this week in their lives.
Hi, Mission Church. It's so exciting to have some of y'all students out this week, to spend time with them, to get to know them, to watch them serve Jesus, and to share City Heights with some people from Mission Church. We had a really sweet time, and I can't wait for you to hear their stories about their conversations that they have with people and some of the lives that they were impacted by and able to impact. So hope you enjoy hearing all of their stories. Thanks for coming.
my skin. When the sadness overwhelms us, the troubled water rises. When the reason for my bleeding don't make sense, and I'm not in control. When my world comes crashing down around my head, and I feel like I got nothing left. Whoa, I'm not in control, but it is well with my soul. When oppression and depression have their way with me, when the hurting and the healing feel the same, when the sadness overwhelms us, the trouble arises, when the reason for my bleeding don't make sense, and I'm not in control. When my world comes crashing down around my head, and I feel like I got nothing left. Whoa, I'm not in control, but it is well with my soul. In the sadness that is tearing at my soul, I remember that you always had control. Your love is crystal clear. When my world comes crashing down around my head, and I feel like I got nothing left. Whoa, I'm not in control, but it is well with my soul.
Everybody, how's everybody doing? Great. It's all right. Let's try it again. I'm gonna consistently do this every time I come up here until you guys get it. How's everybody doing this morning? All right. Well, first of all, the first thing I want to say is, please give all of our young men and women that went on this trip a huge round of applause for all the hard work they did. Well, I'm going to give you guys a quick walkthrough what we did each and every day, and then each one of them will come up and kind of give you a story of what happened with them that impacted their life. When we got there, it was a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to be able to go and minister to people there. But the great thing is, we had this concept and idea that we did all this training and God's going to allow us to use this, this, and this, and we had this great game plan. But it's great how God works, and he sometimes goes, you know what, Daniel, just when you think you got it all figured out, I've got something in store for you. And that's exactly what happened. We got there, we pull in, the weather was 72 degrees, so I was trying to bottle that up and bring it back, but it obviously didn't work. But anyways, we had an opportunity to go there, we get out of our vans, and there's another group there already. So we're thinking to ourselves, how are we going to make this thing work with all these other people living there along with us? God was ultimately breaking down walls to where we could get an opportunity to minister. So we get there, we pull in, and they tell us, guess what? You're going to be sleeping on the floor with this air mattress, and just so you're aware, there's daddy long legs and cockroaches. So some of the kids were like, and I go, well, this is part of living on mission, so you're going to have to get used to this. So everyone aired up their air mattress, and they go, what does our game plan look like? So they give us our schedule. And from 7:30 every morning, we would have to get up. And some of you men who in that room did not want to get up, aka Jake. Um, did not want to get up, so 7:30 would show up and they would have our day planned out for us. We would grab breakfast and we literally were told to walk through the city, meet new people, try new things. And several of us were a little intimidated at first, but God gradually started breaking down those walls. One of the most important opportunities you guys will know is each one of our young men and women that were here were pushed further than I've ever seen them pushed, to where they would have to speak with people they didn't know, where they would have to try to communicate with people that didn't speak the same language as they did. And the thing that really challenged their faith was when each one of them were challenged to be pushed further, I saw them blossom. And as a youth pastor, you guys have no idea how important it is to me to be able to see all those effort and hours that we sit in those rooms doing training, to see them grow. It's this plant that you constantly keep watering. You're sitting there going, all right, one of these days you're going to bloom, right? And you keep waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And the two people I really want to make sure I want you guys to give a huge round of applause for is Camry and Colin blossomed like I've never seen two kids blossom before in my life. You already, Ethan, already expected that from you and everybody else up there. But these two, God pushed them into a whole new realm to be able to help them blossom. And to see all those hours that I put in there with these young men and women, pressing God's word on them, to see them grow, I will be the first person to tell you, I went home after the whole trip was said and done, and I hugged my wife and I said, I am proud of them. So I'm going to give them an opportunity and chance to be able to share, and as they're all done and wrapped up, we'll finish out and give you guys an opportunity to hear all their wonderful stories.
So as you guys saw in the pictures, we were with kids most of the time, so that was also called Kids Club. And so when in Kids Club, we were working with refugees, and when we worked with refugees, refugees are normally kind of like closed off and shy because they're in a new nation and area that they've never been in before. So that's kind of hard. But it was really cool to see how they opened up and that they wanted to talk to us, because on the second day, we were talking about their religion and their home and their language, and they were so happy to talk about it that they actually opened up and told us about their language. And then it's called Kinyarwanda, I think. But then, so they basically taught us some of their language in their words. So that was really cool to see how they came out of their comfort zone and showed us really what to do. But then it was cool to see, because on the last day that when we told them that we had to go home and go back to Arizona, they were really scared, and they didn't want us to go home because they had such a fun time, and they're like, no, you can come back here and live with us in my apartment, and they didn't want us to leave, and so that was really cool. But then, so when we left, the dad of the family that we were that was shown in the pictures, he found Danielle on Facebook and told Danielle that thank you so much for spending time with my kids. You really made an impact, and we will see each other again soon. So thank you again for your prayer and support.
Hi. As you could see, I went to San Diego on this mission trip in the past week. And on the second day, we did something that is completely up my alley. We went to a special needs ministry called Love 'Em Up, and I had the time of my life. Fun fact, they do worship in a conga line around. They all get up and they go in a conga line. So we should try it. But it was such a fun time just to see them and to see them actually just worshiping God and opening up. And it was so cool. You could see God working in so many different ways, and how just they were not reserved at all. They just were open with worshiping God. They were jumping and like yelling, and I was like, that's my kind of worship. So, and I actually had the opportunity to share my testimony. I kind of like pushed out of my shell to share my testimony, and I was like, I'm not really sure about this one. So I got up there and I just let God speak for me. And then after, at the end, there was an older woman with special needs who walked up to me. And you could tell she was just, something was on her heart. And she walked up to me and she told me, and she said, that kind of pain that you were describing going through before Christ, she said, I'd gone through that kind of pain. My mom died. And she was just so heartbroken. She just started crying. And it was so sad to just see, like, all her walls don't come down and her just start crying. And she had me hold her and pray for her. And it was just so cool to show that, like, when you open up, like, I wasn't real comfortable with getting up there and sharing my testimony, but it just shows, like, when you open up for God, like, other people will open up for you. And then, like, you'll have the opportunity to love on them. And because you could tell she needed that. Like, she needed someone to relate to her, and she needed someone to love on her. So it was just really cool to see how God works in mysterious ways with different people. And, yeah, I had a fun time, and that was probably the coolest part of my week. The end.
This was my first mission trip, and I was really unsure about going. I wasn't sure what to expect and, like, what to do. But, like, after the whole week had ended, it was, like, I don't know how to even explain it. It was amazing, and I really, really did not want to leave. My favorite, like, experience, or that, like, really touched me was this little girl named Annette, who was 2 years old, and she was playing and got hurt. And she just wouldn't stop crying. Like, her sisters were trying to comfort her. Bria was holding her. Just everyone was trying to comfort her for, like, 15 minutes. And then she just started pointing at me. And I was kind of like, I don't know what to do. So Bria just handed her off to me. And she immediately just stopped crying. And I really have no idea why. But yeah, so that really just touched me because I didn't know, like, just going into the trip, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know, like, how to, like, talk to these kids or, like, what to do. But once I got there, I was just comfortable, and I don't know, it just happened. It just came to me, I guess. But, yeah, so that really touched me, like, getting to build that connection with the kids and just really bonding with them. And, yeah.
Hi. On Thursday morning, we all made 2 lunches. We made one for us and one for anyone who we ran into, who was, yeah. And so we were walking around, and me and Emily were. And we were walking around for a while, and then we saw this guy on the bench, and so I walked up to him, and I asked him if he wanted the extra lunch that I had, and he said yeah. And so then I asked if I could sit next to him, and he said that I could, and so I sat next to him, and I asked him how long he had lived in California, and he said that he had lived there for a while. And then I asked him if he liked it, and he said he really did. And then we didn't talk for a while because I didn't know what to say. And then I just was asking him, like, simple questions, like what his favorite animal was, and he said snakes. And I don't really like snakes that much, but so then he was just talking to me about a video he saw about a lady, and she was, like, poking a snake with a stick, and it was like a rattlesnake, and she wouldn't stop, and it, like, bit her on the finger, and her arm swelled up like twice the size as her normal arm. And then he was talking about, like, bears and elephants and all that kind of stuff. And then he started talking about, like, things that had happened, like how that crocodile hunter guy died, and like that kid who went to Florida with his family, and he got, like, too close to the alligators and stuff. And then, yeah, he was just talking about all that stuff like that. And then he asked me, because we were next to a school, and so we asked if I went to school there. And I said no, that I was homeschooled, and I said that I lived here in Arizona. And then he asked how homeschooling worked, and so I told him what we did. And he said that he liked that I was homeschooled and that it was good that I was away from all the negativity in public schools. And and so then we were sitting there for like an hour, and then Emily had to come up and get me away. Or not, like she had to come up and get me because I could have taken more time, but we were running out. So yeah, that's all.
Hi. I think probably my favorite moments was like just the whole week over at Kids Club, just because I got to spend time with all the refugee kids over there. I think the weird part was just like, to be honest, I'm not really that good hanging out with younger kids, mostly because I don't want to like upset them in any way. But going there, I actually, just learned that just spending time with them would make them happy, and I almost felt like it trained me like for the future, like when I become a dad myself, just whatever they want to do, like play ball, run around and play tag, draw, do crafts and stuff, just to do it with them for as long as you want. And then if you want to talk to them at all, you can just talk about what they want to say. And yeah, that was a really fun moment for me that I'll probably remember forever. So thank you for your prayer and support for the trip.
Hi, I'm Emily. This trip was really great. It was definitely a God thing. Like Danielle mentioned before, he mentioned there were like some cockroaches and critters. Well, I wasn't told that the first few days. So Danielle actually mentioned that to me maybe like 2 or 3 days in. So there was one point where I was walking around in the dark, and I couldn't see anything, and all of a sudden, I'm walking around, and I hear this, like, noise following me as I'm walking, and so I got kind of, like, freaked out a little bit, because, like, that was the day he told me. So I start walking faster, and it's, like, the noise is going faster, too, so I started running, and it was just following me and chasing me, and I'm, like, dodging it. Well, when I finally get to the light, I found out that it was a zipper on my clothes. And I was just running in the dark. Anyway, this trip was really amazing. I would say one thing that really touched me was when we got to work with one of the missions organizations called Bridge of Hope. What they do is they hook up with some refugee families when they come in, and they supplement some items for them. So, like, the refugee families are supposed to be given enough beds and enough supplies, pots and pans and things, but they're not always. So they get hooked up with Bridge of Hope, and they tell them what they need. And then through donations, Bridge of Hope supplies them what they can. So the ladies there at Bridge of Hope put me in the kitchen section. So everything was really nice on the shelves. You can take 1 pot or 1 pan per family, and depending on how many people were in your family, like 3 sets of silverware. And earlier we had been talking to the person who was in charge of Bridge of Hope, and she was saying, it's really hard to say no. I just feel so bad. And in my head I was like, but you're like giving them stuff. That's just so great. I don't understand it. But then when I, was doing it, it was so hard. It was just so difficult. And when I ended it, I told Danielle, I felt like a dirty cop because I kept like turning a blind eye, and sure, you can take that. I'm sure it's fine. Take an extra glass, or I'm sure you can exchange this for that. But it was so encouraging that God has people all over in different cities, and just taking care of these families that he's bringing here. And what an encouragement to see just our group of youth being used and growing for the Lord and just loving on people. So thank you so much for supporting us in your prayer. It really meant a lot.
Hi guys, my name's Jake. So I went on this trip, and one of the first things we did, which was kind of confusing to me, because when you go on a mission trip, you don't expect to be told, hey, go walk around the city and just go buy things and get food from places and experience the culture you're in. And I was like, oh, okay. Mission trip, still fun. And one of the first foods I got, I'll have to pull it up here because it's quite the mouthful of a name. It was called Ban Pi Dao Yang. And what it is it's called, the English version of that is mung bean hopia. And it was basically like a version of a sad powdered donut, I think. It was really weird, but after a while I kind of liked it. But after I walked around and experienced like all the supermarkets, like they have supermarkets there where there's shelves like as tall as this building, just walls and walls of ramen noodles, like all different kinds of noodles. And there were these fruits called jackfruit. And if you haven't seen a jackfruit before, it is literally like that big, and it has spikes all around it. You'd think it like a head would pop out of it, but it's just a really big fruit. But after experiencing all the culture and all the fruits, like that's when we got to the next day, go in and experience the people, like on a person-to-person basis. Like when we brought all those kids in, these Kiruandan kids, that's what language they spoke. They were from Ethiopia. But these kids, they were so joyful, even though they had not much to be joyful about. And like, I remember the first day these kids came in, there's this little boy, he's like this tall, really timid, really shy, didn't really talk much. But the first day he came, he sat down next to me, and I put a piece of paper out in front of him, because kids love to draw. And he just sat there and kind of looked at it, and I handed him a marker. Then he started drawing, and he was drawing people with sad faces. And you can't really talk to the little kids because they don't know how to speak English. So it kind of broke my heart a little bit. Like why is this small child like this big, drawing little sad people? And another kid, her name was Patience. It's spelled patience, but she gets really angry if you say patience. Patience, when I was playing with her, we were running around throwing the ball. She said, stay right there. Let me cuff your hands. I'm the police. I was like, oh, okay, this is weird. Kids are weird. They do weird things, right? I was like, okay, I'll just stand there. And then she left and forgot, I guess. So I went over to play with another kid. And then when she came back, she looked at me and said, you didn't stay where I asked. I'm going to hit you now. So at that moment, I was just like, whoa. Like, what do these kids have in mind when it comes to, like, the society they're in? And, it's just kind of scary to think of that. But as days passed on, the little kid that didn't smile and drew sad people was smiling and running around. We found this big red kickball that he didn't smile until we gave him that kickball. We gave him the kickball, and he went, and then just started running around with it and kicking it back and forth. It was just warming to see those kids find some joy and some hope, in the world around them. And in City Heights, that's where it was. It was just so great to see and experience the culture there and provide a little bit of hope. And it kind of tells us, like, it brought to my heart the attention that everybody's a person. Like, even the homeless people we talked to, they were all really cool. They had come, I met a guy his name was Hugo. He came here from Tijuana, and we had this whole conversation about, since I'm Native American, he was like, yeah, I'm Mexican. And he explained, like, pretty much how some of the Mexican people and the Native American people were in the same boat when the Europeans came over. It was just super awesome to go and see that people were actually, like, related to you. Like, these aren't just homeless people. These are people that have lives, that had lives, But I also want to thank you guys for being able to allow me to go on this trip and affect these people's lives in a positive way. I really appreciate the prayer and support that you guys give. Thank you.
Sorry about that. And as we finish up, there's two quick things I wanted to end on a note, but let you guys know how impactful this trip was and all these things that we did and how important it is for all of your prayers and support. The very first thing I want to say as a youth director, I got a chance, an opportunity to do something that meant the world to me, more than I think she even brought it up. But while we were there, prior to us going to the trip, Brianna calls me up and says, Daniil, we're ready to take that next step. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what is she talking about? She comes to me and says, we're ready to be baptized. My heart sunk along with hers at the same time. Having an opportunity to do this with her meant so much to me. So we had our very last day, we went to the ocean. And that day, she announced her faith, went through everything together, and Brianna had an opportunity to be baptized. So you guys, please give her a round of applause. That's so awesome. And the cool thing was, when we were in the ocean, I could kind of hide my tears behind that, because the water's going. Some people are like, something in your eye. I was like, oh yeah, but I was actually tearing up with her. But anyways. But it was a great opportunity to do that. But the very last thing I want to end you guys with is these kids were impacted by us so much. When you opened the door, they came running out to greet you as if we'd known them for 50 years. And that impact that played a role in these kids' life, it touched them in a way I've never seen them been touched before. And especially in the manner to where they were literally going, what else can we do to help impact them? So as we were leaving and we had an opportunity to finish out our week, all of our young men and women here that are in our youth group get a chance to what we have this thing called a box of hope. You guys may see, a box of change. It's on the very back when you walk out. So each week we get change, we get money, we get people donate. This time we got a chance to use that money and impact these people. So as we all know, Jocelyn that works there, everybody knows that you don't make very much money doing admissions work. And let's just be realistic. You probably don't make much at all to be able to go above and beyond what your needs are. So I walk up to her, and Jocelyn just loves kids so much, and she's always constantly thinking about them. I literally grabbed her and put her shoulders in front of me and said, listen, you're going to let me bless you whether you like it or not. It was like love through force, right? So she didn't really want to hear that at first. She would never tell me anything she needed. And I literally wanted to yell at her and be like, listen to me. I want to help you. Tell me what you need. Still wouldn't do it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to have to figure out a different tactic here, because this obviously isn't working with Jocelyn. So I went behind her back and I met the interns and I said, what does Jocelyn need? They walk up to me and they said, Daniil, she went into the tire place yesterday. All of her tires are bad. She needs new tires. And I said, you know what? We're going to do this. So all of that money we've gathered up throughout this time we've had there in the box of change, I went up to her and I said, Jocelyn, you need new tires because you have kids in your car all the time. You're driving to graduations. You're taking kids to be able to go from refugee camps here back to the States. You got all this stuff that's going on. You need tires for your car. I tell her, she's super ecstatic and excited. She goes back to her room with her interns, and tears are just pouring down her face. So why I'm telling you guys this story is because all these things that we do to prep ourselves for this, God has a plan for it. He wants to use us. We just have to open up our hearts and minds to let him in and allow all the stuff that's going on in the world out there that's distractions. We have to say no to that, and yes to God being the number one priority in our life, because it will impact and change not only you, but your surroundings, the people that are around you. It will forever change their life when you truly and dearly bring the love of Jesus to these people. Thank you once again for all of your prayers and support. We love you guys, and just so you guys know, I love your kids so much, and I cannot wait to see what God's going to do with them in the future.
Well, this is one of my favorite Sundays out of the year because I always love to hear about young people who are stretching themselves, getting out of their comfort zone and allowing God to use them. Maybe it's sitting next to a homeless person for an hour and having a sack lunch with them and just loving them and just telling them that they matter, and getting out of your comfort zone. And it's always a reminder to me personally, right, that all of us are called to be out there on mission. And that every day God puts opportunities in our lives for us to bless somebody, to love somebody, to treat someone like a real person, to share our testimony with them, to reach out to them and just encourage them. And so it's just a reminder that all of us are called to go out on mission. So I just want to say thank you so much for those of you that prayed, those of you that supported our young people to be able to go. And it's so exciting to see God's work in their lives, and I know that's going to continue on. So I want to encourage you to keep praying for them. In fact, one of the hardest things is to come back from a mission trip where you were kind of on this big spiritual mountaintop and this high experience and walking with Jesus and everything was exciting, and then you come back to real life. And sometimes it's tough. And sometimes there's temptation and the enemy wants to come in and snatch away the good things that have happened in their hearts. And so I just want to invite you to pray over them and encourage them for all that God's done in their lives.